Egypt, and a land of endless deserts and eternal secrets, where the sands carry whispers of kings long gone. And yet, beneath that golden expanse, lies a story so compelling, so tragic, it could turn the Nile's gentle flow into tears. Today we journey to the twilight of Egypt's golden age, when one pharaoh, mighty, revered, and untouchable, would face an enemy not from distant lands, but from within the walls of his own palace. This is the tale of Ramses III, the last great warrior pharaoh of Egypt, a man whose life reads like an epic and whose death was shrouded in darkness for millennia. Imagine for a moment the dawn of his reign. Ramses III was no ordinary ruler. No, he carried the weight of Egypt's fading grandeur on his shoulders. The world around him was falling apart, empires crumbling like dried papyrus, foreign invaders sweeping across lands that once stood invincible. But not Egypt. Oh no, Ramses was determined to hold back the tide. The sea peoples and marauders feared across the Mediterranean, set their eyes on the jewel of Africa. They came in waves, their warships cutting through the waters like daggers in the hands of thieves. The nations they passed were helpless, left smoldering in ruin. But when they reached Egypt, they found a lion waiting for them. Picture Ramses, standing tall, his war chariot gleaming under the sun. He faced his enemies head-on, commanding his armies with the wisdom of his ancestors and the ferocity of a god. Battle after battle, he crushed the invaders, driving them back into the sea from which they came. Egypt was saved, her people safe, her borders intact. Ramses III had done what seemed impossible. He preserved Egypt's sovereignty when all else was falling into chaos. Yet, even as he stood victorious over the ashes of his enemies, a storm was brewing, not from outside but from within the gilded chambers of his own court. You see, in ancient Egypt, betrayal didn't always come with swords raised on the battlefield. Sometime, it came in whispers, in the darkness of night, in the shadows of the royal palace. The palace and its halls once bustling with life, filled with courtiers, priests, and advisors, all loyal to the pharaoh, or so it seemed. But behind those grand columns and golden statues, there was a silent unrest growing. The people were suffering. Famine and strikes from the workers who built the monuments, a discontent was bubbling to the surface. Egypt's wealth was no longer as endless as the Nile itself, and the court's power struggles became ever more dangerous. To enter Queen Tyre, a woman whose ambition burned brighter than the desert sun. She was no ordinary queen, but a cunning and determined figure who saw an opportunity amidst the turmoil. Tyre had a son, Pentower, and she believed, no, she knew, that he was destined for the throne. But the line of succession, it was not so simple. Ramses III had already designated his heir, another son from a different wife. Tyre's heart burned with the desire to see her son rule, but this was no age of diplomacy. No words, no pleading could bend Ramses' will. There was only one path left: eliminate the king. What followed next was something out of a chilling drama, but this was no fiction, this was real. Tyre and her closest allies, officials, palace servants, even a few priests, set in motion a plan so audacious that it would shake the foundation of the Egyptian empire. It was called the Harem Conspiracy. The name alone sends shivers down the spine. A plot born in the heart of the royal harem, the most sacred and private quarters of the palace. You can imagine it now. Women in fine linens, their faces painted with the elegance of Egypt's finest dyes, yet their hearts darkened by ambition. In secret chambers they plotted the downfall of a man they should have revered above all. The conspiracy spread like wildfire. Not a single aspect of court life was untouched, from royal attendants to high-ranking officials. They whispered their plans, each whisper drawing them closer to the fatal moment. But how? How could they bring down a man like Ramses, a ruler who had stood against armies, commanded divine respect, and worn the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt? Well, they waited. They bided their time, planning an assassination so perfect, so swift, that there would be no room for mistakes. Ramses III's death had to appear natural, an unexpected illness perhaps, or an unfortunate accident. But as history would show, fate had far darker plans in store for the pharaoh. In the royal palace, on a night thick with tension, they made their move. Some say the conspirators gathered as Ramses slept, moving like shadows through the corridors. Others whisper that poison was slipped into his food, weakening the great king before they deliver the final blow. And then, in the dead of night, Ramses III, Egypt's last great warrior pharaoh, was silenced. For centuries, the exact details of his death remained lost to history. Ancient records hinted at a conspiracy, but the truth was buried deep, until modern technology revealed what the sands had long concealed. When scientists examined the mummy of Ramses III, they uncovered the truth. He hadn't simply died of old age, as some believed. No. The pharaoh's throat had been slashed with such force that it nearly severed his head from his body. The evidence was unmistakable. Ramses III had been murdered in cold blood by those he trusted most. Oh, the betrayals, it runs deep, doesn't it? The mighty Ramses, victorious in war, protector of his people, brought low not by the sword of a foreign invader, but by the hands of those who shared his blood. The weight of betrayal, heavier than stone, more suffocating than the desert heat, what must have raced through the mind of Ramses III in those final moments? The king who had fought for Egypt with every ounce of his being, brought down by his own flesh and blood. His death was not the heroic passing he might have envisioned, but rather a tragic end carved out by the ambition and jealousy of those closest to him. The conspirators thought they would get away with it. Oh yes, they believed the deed was done. They believed the great Ramses had been silenced, and with him, any opposition to their twisted ambitions. But history is rarely kind to those who believe themselves invincible. What followed was a trial unlike any Egypt had ever seen, a reckoning within the very heart of the empire. Ancient records reveal a moment of unprecedented scandal, an inquiry into the plot that exposed the rot at the highest levels of the palace. Ramses III's son, Ramses IV, took the throne and wasted no time in seeking justice. The Judicial Papyrus of Turin, an ancient document that survived through the ages, recounts the trials of those involved in the conspiracy. Can you imagine the tension in the courtroom? The accused standing before the judges, their fates hanging by the thinnest of threads. Evidence was presented, accusations were hurled, and one by one, the traitors were brought to light. The punishment? Execution for some, disgrace for others. Even Pentower, the son who sought to seize the throne, could not escape his fate. Some believe he took his own life to avoid the shame of public execution. Others say he was forced to do so, swallowing poison as the final act of a life steeped in treachery. Fontaine, the woman who had orchestrated it all, her name too was dragged through the dust of history. The conspiracy she birthed in secret was laid bare for all to see, and her dreams of seeing her son on the throne crumbled into nothingness. For all their scheming, for all the blood that was spilled, one truth remained: Egypt endured. The land of the Nile, the kingdom of gods and kings, pressed on. Ramses III's death was not the end of Egypt's greatness, though it marked the beginning of a slow and inevitable decline. Still, the empire that Ramses fought so hard to protect lived on for centuries to come. His name and his legacy were forever etched in the annals of history. And now, as we stand on the other side of time, we look back on Ramses III not as a mere figure of ancient history, but as a man, flawed, powerful, betrayed, whose life and death remind us of the fragility of power. His story speaks to the dangers of ambition, the corrosive nature of betrayal, and the ways in which the past continues to echo into the present. When we unravel the mysteries of history, like we've done today, we don't just learn about the past, we learn about ourselves. The story of Ramses III is not just the tale of an ancient ruler. It is a mirror, reflecting the timeless truths of human nature, the thirst for power, the cost of loyalty, and the delicate balance between life and death, even for those who sit upon the mightiest of thrones. But before we part ways today, let's remember that history is never fully settled. There are always more questions, always more secrets hiding beneath the sands. And here, on Echoes of the Past, we will continue to explore these untold stories, these forgotten moments, and these ancient mysteries that still have so much to teach us. If this tale has left you wanting more, if it has stirred something deep within your soul, I invite you to subscribe. Together, we will walk the paths of history, unearthing the stories that have shaped our world. And who knows? Perhaps the next story we uncover will change the way you see the world forever. Thank you for joining me today. And until next time, may the echoes of the past continue to guide you.